Hello and welcome to So Summit 2020. And welcome to panel discussion on early stage funding and startups. We're joined today by Mr. Vinay Bansal, Chief Executive Officer, Inflection Point Ventures, a finance professional with 20 years of global experience in Fortune 50 companies, startups, and private equity, with sharp focus on delivering growth and profitability turnarounds. Mr. Bansal has a track record of exceptional performance in positions of increasing leadership responsibilities. Inflection Point Ventures is an early to mid stage venture fund with over 2,500 CXO members and HNIs who have come together to encourage new startups. They partner with new age entrepreneurs and take them to the next level by providing them with not just funding, but also access to customers, guidance, and mentorship. Mr. Bansal, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you
So,
for
Mr.
having me on.
Bansal, let me kickstart by asking you Hindustan Lever Limited, GE, Wildcraft India, TPG Global, and wearing a myriad of hats in finance and then going about to set up IPV. Tell us
Yeah,
a little bit about this journey and what made you start IPV.
sure. See, I think having worked for different companies, as you said, Unilever was a European company, right? GE was an American company where I worked almost more than 7 countries and lived in more than 30 cities. And then Wildcraft was an entrepreneurial experience where I worked with the founders to grow the company in a variety of roles, not just finance. And then TPG was even more wider, where I sat on the boards helping the promoters run the company and even make it profitable. Why I started IPV? I would say having started working with founders and startups for the last 8+ years now, I was very close to looking at how founding teams work, how the founders' problems are. And then on the other side, as an investor, I could very clearly see there are a ton of problems for the investors as well. And when I looked at the ecosystem around, I said, there's a huge amount of problem in just solving for this itself. Leave aside founders trying to solve a given problem, but it was a big problem in itself to help the founder raise funding and to help the investors get to fund these startups. Take an example. In startups, if there are 3 founders, one founder will be dedicated to only fundraising and doing nothing else. And then also he will end up meeting every individual investor for 2.5 lakh, 5 lakh kind of checks, which is really painful. On the investor side, he doesn't know the founder. He doesn't know where the business is. He doesn't have the time to evaluate businesses. And therefore, he needs a lot more trustworthy founders to bet on, right? That's where I said, if nothing like this exists, we should be able to bring our experience together and form something which is great for investors, at the same time is great for founders as well. And that was the concept that we brought in for IPV.
And what a beautiful amalgamation of founders and investors there.
Yes, that is the whole idea. We have 2 sides of the same coin. One side is investors, one side is the founders, and we are here to serve both.
Brilliant. With your compiled experience, what is it that you look for in a startup founder?
All right. So at IPV, we have very defined, I would say, characteristics for a founder. And that's how we have systemized and streamlined the whole process around identifying founders. Let me pick a few of those. Number one, we look for in the founder is a deep vision and insights. Okay. Right? Why is the founder doing what he's doing? Are there personal pain points that he has gone through to do something? Right. Second, we look at is a great leadership quality and ability to execute, which means are there people who will be willing to work for this great leader? Because only then he can scale. Once he has good teams will do great work.
Correct.
Third is ability to execute. Can this founder actually do what he's saying? Does he have the capability to do what he's saying? Does he have the willingness and the passion to do what he's saying, right? Can he put in those 24 hours a day to deliver what he wants to deliver on? Next, we look at is the technical capability. If a founder is here to make aircraft engines, he should have an education in aircraft engine or some experience in aircraft engine, right? I mean, you can put an Elon Musk to do what he does because he has certain expertise, right? But I cannot probably do what Elon Musk does, right? And so on and so forth, right? Steve Jobs was by heart maker of computers.
Correct.
So he could get into the computer industry. Steve Jobs could not have gone into an Uber industry probably, right? And the last we look at is the ability to learn regularly, ability to listen, and ability to grow, right? So can this guy work with a network of investors and a network of co-founders and his team members? Can he listen? Can he synthesize? And can he decide? And therefore, can he therefore be successful? So these are, I would say, top 5 out of many criteria we have for founders. But these became, stay as very foundational for us to fund these founders.
So there is, what is the vision of the founder? What is his technical background? Yes. Whether he's having the ability to learn, team play. So considering all of that, if all of that is set in place, when is the right time for a startup to come to IPV, and what can they expect?
Sure. So if you look at the 5 characteristics I said, right, they can occur at any stage of a startup. Correct. Even at an idea stage, it can occur.
Correct.
Right? Correct. And therefore, IPV is not only sector agnostic, but we welcome great ideas and great founders at any point in time. They can come to us at an idea stage looking for a $100,000 check, or they could come to us even at a Series A looking for a $2 million check, right? All we look for is great founders running great businesses and willing to partner with us.
So practically, no wrong time or right time to do the right thing.
Absolutely. Do the right thing.
Fantastic. Mr. Bansal, at this point in time, I would ask you, have founders and businesses become too dependent on funding? And if so, then is this bad for the startup ecosystem on a whole level?
Sure. I would say it's a perspective. And I would say, let me put it that way. We treat startups like kids, right? Kids need investment in education and they need to grow before they start going to jobs and start earning, right? So I would say that today there are many kids who start earning early.
Correct.
Right? Many kids who would get into the job quickly and start earning, but there are others who need more time. Today, I would say that there are businesses who are set up to make money right from day one, but those do not make media headlines, right? There are businesses like Zoho who have never raised funding, right? But we won't talk to them about them very often. And then a dentist setting up a shop is also a founder and a business. He may not need funding. He may need some funding for his machines, right? But after that, he's on his own. We don't listen about them too much. But we listen about those founders who are raising money and are in the news very often, right? So I would say it's more of a perspective and more of what we hear. Both sides exist. Both are needed. Only advice to founders is have a strong business model which will earn money, which means a kid should go to a job at the end of the day. But as long as that is in place, some will need funding for a smaller period of time, some need for a longer period of time. We are here to support.
Fantastic. So in the same line of thought, Mr. Bansal, most definitely, this is a given that it's a competitive market out there.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to small businesses and startups who want to thrive in this competitive market?
Sure. I would say to thrive as a student, you needed to do your work well. You needed to do your grades well, and you need to pass, right? Similarly, for a startup, I would say they should add value, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever they are doing, they should be accretive to value. It should not be like, take $1 from me and give me 50 cents back. That's not adding value, right? You should be able to put in $1 and get towards value work done, right? So add value, make sure your customers love you, they stick around with you, and then continue to build business that is gonna make their investors as well as business sustainable.
So value and vision would need to be in place.
Absolutely.
Or some other factors.
Yeah.
Shifting gears, Mr. Bansal, we are in 2020, and there's no way we're going to get away without asking this: that does COVID affect the dynamics of investment in India, or has it, or will it? And what industries are a key focus area here?
Sure. See, I would say any change has an impact. Sure. I would be very naive to say, okay, COVID has had no impact, right? I mean, then I'm not opening my eyes to what's happening around, right? So any impact can open up two types of opportunities. One is a shift of opportunities. The second is creation of new opportunities, right? So if you look at COVID, what has happened in the area of shift? We never imagined that Chinese investments will get a hit or Chinese apps will get a hit, right? If TikTok is stopped in the country today, then there are a host of other startups who can, shift or make a shift from TikTok to them. That's a shift. I mean, nothing significant has changed. It's a copy. Because TikTok can't operate, others will operate, right? We have seen like tens of such startups coming up. So it's a great place for investors to invest in those startups which we know are going to do well. And then there are other things which emerge as new trends or emerge as new opportunities. Think about it. Today we are doing this call more as a online call, right? Otherwise we might have done it in person.
Yes.
So there is a need for technology, need for Zoom, need for this device, etc. So all of these are required. One could set up a business saying, okay, I will help you set up and fix your devices from home, right? This is could be one business idea that somebody could come up with.
Right? Yeah.
The other business ideas which are coming up now, for example, grocery delivery at home, right?
Big.
All of us want it. That's a change in the economic conditions or in the physical conditions, right? So businesses like Big Basket, Milk Basket, Crow Farm, all of these businesses are gonna take this opportunity. So what is required is of founders to identify the opportunities, stay positive, act, and make the most of it, right? So I would say changes are there. It is up to that, I would say, proactive person and a founder to identify that new trend or a new need and then solve for it for the society. Business will be successful.
Since we're talking about COVID, Mr. Bansal, many key VC firms have been staying quiet or laying low, while IPV has been extremely active with investments since March.
Yes.
So how is it that IPV has been able to pass this period successfully? What would be the secrets here?
Sure. We operate here at first principle basis, right? It's very easy to say, oh, everything is going wrong, so let's hold off. What we said is, fine, everything is going wrong, no problem. But we have our minds, we have our brains, we have the time to look at what's happening. That's exactly what we did. We saw that great startup founders were not getting funded. We took it as an opportunity to fund those great startups and businesses, right? We saw people were not having great jobs. We took it as an opportunity to get the best talent into IPV, right? We saw people were very, very, I would say, anxious and confused. We took it on ourselves to educate our investors. We brought in a ton of master classes, a ton of education material. We worked with our customers very well, right? And we said, okay, we are going to educate what's happening and we will help you invest right? Fourth, because nobody was getting funded, we were getting very reasonable valuations to fund that, which will give us, a good leeway 3-4 years down the line. So what we saw was the positive side of the business. We educated people, kept the trust of our customers, and supported founders. In all, we built a great ecosystem to be more aggressive at the same time become a win-win for everyone involved in our ecosystem as a stakeholder.
Great. So a glass half full or half empty is just a question of choice. You've actually, IPV has kind of shown that. Shifting gears, Mr. Bansal, and moving forward, let me ask you, the startup ecosystem in India.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that and how do you see it in coming times? Especially the IPV actually collaborates and supports a lot of startups. So what is your thought on this?
Sure. See, I'm an eternal optimist, right? Which means, when you are like that, you see opportunities emerging, right?
Correct.
And you see, and if you believe that something great is going to happen, you work towards it and be ready for the opportunity. Right?
Correct.
That's what we have shown in the last 6 months. And that's what I believe will happen in the next 6 years also. So we see a huge amount of opportunity coming up. Let me lay it out in a few more specific terms. Today, okay, let me put it, 6 years back when I was shifting from GE to a Wildcraft kind of a environment, it was a very buoyant environment. Everybody was doing well. But I knew startups need a lot more management bandwidth to grow, a lot more talent. So when I moved, I asked about 40, 50 of my friends, will you come along to the startup world? Many said no. Probably 1% would have said yes, right? But today, a lot of the CXOs and senior executives are willing to bet on startups.
Game has changed.
They are willing to come here, right? They are willing to grow these startups. Second, a lot of these executives are willing to be co-founders.
Correct.
A lot of these executives now know there is funding available, right? There are smart people out there. So they are willing to come into the startup world and do something bigger. The government environment is changing. India is going after Startup India. A lot of the tax incentives are being announced or are in the pipeline to happen, right? A great success stories like a Flipkart, or an Udan or an Ola are already with us. People are seeing those and are getting inspired by those. The startups which have succeeded need talent, right? So all in all, I would say a great opportunity here for people who are in the ecosystem or want to be in the ecosystem. I would say it's the golden period for this country right now. We can create a Silicon Valley kind of ecosystem in the country in the next couple of years itself.
Wow. So there's a whole cultural amalgamation which is coming together to support the startup ecosystem in India.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So then let me then move ahead and ask you, Mr. Bansal, how can startups sustain when they're running low on cash, which I'm guessing and maybe to an extent is true that more often than not it happens with startups. What should their strategy be?
Sure. Let me start with an example. If you are in a desert and running low on water, what your strategy would be, right? First, conserve your water.
Correct.
Go after finding more water, right? Correct. That's as simple as that, right?
Correct.
And great strategies come from life-death situations or military, right? I mean, that's my belief. So I would say that one, before getting into the desert, figure out how much water you need and have it before going there, right? Plan your trip well.
Yes, yeah.
Right? Second is conserve resources. Do not overspend when not required, right? Number three is have a line of sight to next 1 to 2 years, right? When you're getting water, refill your bottle, restart the journey, right? And again, be conservative. Continue to be on a journey which will add value at the end. After the desert, are you gonna be in a great touristic or a holiday place, right? And if you are on that right journey, you have the right people with you who are gonna help you walk through that desert. You will do right? So plan well, execute well, have the right mindset, and continue to cross the desert with the right team and with the right resource.
Wonderful. Thank you for that thought, Mr. Bansal. And last couple of questions before we wind this up. Sure. How do you ensure your due diligence process stays up to date with the changing times and trends?
Sure. See, I think, we at IPV operate on first principles basis, which means what are the basics of any business? What are the basic requirements of things? Second, we go into any business knowing that we may not know enough.
Correct.
Which means we are open to thoughts from others, input from others, and ideas from others, right? Now, what that means is that if we have more than 2,500 senior professionals on a platform, we open our due diligence to them and say, hey, here is the startup we have. Give us your ideas. Give us your thoughts. Tell us where it can fail. Tell us where will you be able to help us succeed. Tell us where can you help founders with, right? We get a 24-page report done in 48 hours. So we have a set of 20 to 30 people team, very relevant team for every startup, right? Now they tell us what can go wrong, what needs to be done right from the first principles. On that we do what are the basic checks that need to be done. So we actually, get this input right from the time of today, right? Everybody can give us those inputs, and that's how we do our due diligence very fast, in a very distributed manner. Helps us stay up to date on the current trends and the best of technology to do our job well.
Wonderful. So my last question then, Mr. Bansal, would be to you is, what is your success mantra?
All right. So I would say, 2 or 3 things. One is always start with why, which means you should know
what's why
you are doing, what you are doing. right? So you have a North Star to go after, right? The second is once you figured out what you're doing and why, then get the right team along. Put in your head down, give in your 100%, put in your hard work to go behind what you're gonna do, right? And third is just keep learning and move fast. I mean, learning will come from all places. If you can continue to sharpen your saw, you will continue to stay ahead, and you will continue to add value to society and to yourself.
What brilliant takeaways, Mr. Bansal. It's been an absolute delight and pleasure. So very clearly, we are aware now that it's one of the best periods for the startup culture to start building and becoming a part of this ecosystem. And if you have your vision, your values, your team, and your attitude in place, then sky's the limit.
Absolutely well said. Very well summarized as well. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bansal, for being a part of this panel discussion, and all the very best for IPV and for all the other ventures that you would be, I'm sure, taking up in future. Thank you for your...
Yes. Thanks a lot. And thanks a lot for having me here as well.